Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and you're welcome to the Shabbat of this morning. The parasha of this morning is called Parasha Shemot, and it means literally names. But we understand it that some people they call it Exodus, and we understand why they call it Exodus. But that was when it is in this book that the children of Israel left the land of Egypt, so they call it Exodus. That is what those people call it. But in Hebrew, it means names, not Exodus. It's a literal meaning Shemot from the word Shem. We call Shemot, which means names. So that is mean names, and I subtitle the parasha of this morning as Hineh Na'ar, which means, and behold, a boy crying. Hineh Na'ar, which means, behold, a boy crying. And before I actually start the parasha of this morning, I have a very important thing that I wanted to discuss about, which is taken from the book of Avot. I mean, the sense of the Father, 6:2. You can have no freer person than one who engaged in the study of the Torah. I repeat, you can have no freer person than one who engages in the study of the Torah. Avot 6:2. And it continues. Libertines lives for pleasure. Truly free people submit to a higher calling. I repeat, libertines, they live for pleasures, but a truly free people submit to a higher calling, because we can see that what is happening in our life now. All of us say that I'm a free person and you are free and free, but we are not living for a higher calling. We are saying that we are free in order to do what is iniquity, what is wrong, not what is right. You see, so the libertines, they think that they are free, but they live for their own self-pleasure, for their own self. It's a selfishness. But the man that truly is free is the man that lives for the higher calling. A man that denounces himself of a physical pleasure to do that which is just and which is right. Shemot is not only the beginning of the great biblical drama of liberation, but our introduction to the Torah premier human personality, Moshe Rabbeinu. To borrow Shakespeare's word about Caesar, Moshe bestrides the world like a colossus. He is the total embodiment of a man of God. When we first encounter this colossus today, he is an abandoned baby, lying in a makeshift cradle, alone, under a decree of death, left by a riverbank. Not only is he apparently helpless, but to detract even more from the dignity of this presumed giant, Moshe is crying. The Torah informs us of this in an upward and uncharacteristic way. We read the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the Nile, while her maiden walked along the Nile. She spied the basket among the reeds and sent a slave girl to fetch it. When she opened it, she saw that it was a child, Hineh Na'ar, bokeh, and behold, a boy crying. She took pity on it and said, this must be a Hebrew child. Exodus chapter 2, verse 6. To summarize all these things that I am saying, Hineh Na'ar, bokeh, behold, the boy is crying. it is normal when you have a child, you know, a baby. When you put a baby in an unfamiliar environment, the baby will do what? The baby will cry, because the baby, he or she, is not familiar to that environment. It is normal. But in the case of Moshe Rabbeinu, that it is a different kind of cry. I'm going to tell us down the stream what kind of a cry was Moshe Rabbeinu crying. We can see all the plan of Egypt, all the plan of Pharaoh and his people, that they say that, and a new Pharaoh came up. A Pharaoh that does not recognize or that does not know Joseph. What is the meaning that it does not know Joseph? Egypt is the first country in the world that begins to keep library. They keep record of all their kings. They kept record of all the great men of Egypt. So how come that this Pharaoh does not know Joseph? That is not true. It is absolutely not true. It is because this Pharaoh does not want to be in debt for what the children of Israel through Joseph has done for Egypt. He doesn't want to recognize that. He wants to see to do as if he's not seeing it. You know, he wants to close his eyes, or he wanted to put his head in the sand, just like the ostrich, not to see it. I don't want to recognize the good thing these people has done for my people. I don't want to understand the good thing that these people have brought to my own people. No, I'm not interested in that. What I want is to do what? Is to enslave them. Because we have seen, their astrologers did what? Has told Pharaoh that a redeemer is coming. Now the redeemer is born. And this redeemer will take the children of Israel out of the land. And so, what happened? He begins to do what? To kill them. First of all, they punish them. The more they punish them, the more they grow. The more they populate the entire land. I said, what am I going to do with them? I'm tired and fed up of these people. Now, let me call the midwives. The midwives came. He told them, if you see the Israelites having child, if it's a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live, because we are going to do what? Assimilate her into ourselves. Right? But, behold and lo, the midwife, the Torah said, they fear God. And when the midwives saw that it was a boy, they left the boy and let the boy live. And Pharaoh was so furious. So why did you allow the boy to live? The midwife, they did not say, come and start lying. No, they craft a what? They craft their way out of the trouble. They create a legend, right? Saying, no, which is actually true. They said the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptians. The Hebrew women are very strong. They are stronger than the Egyptians. Before we come, they've already delivered, and their baby is already in their hand. We can't just come and take it away and kill it. Oh, the Pharaoh said, okay. Then he decreed that every boy from 1 month or 1 day old to 13 years old should be what? Should be killed. Because they just want to wipe away all the boys and assimilate the people into Egypt. He's afraid that the Redeemer will lead Israel out of his land. It's because he needs a free worker, slave pay. In slavery, the nation becomes stronger. In slavery, the nation becomes wealthy and strong because you are not paying for your labor. The labor is free. Why does the text resorted to that strange synoptic phrase, and behold a boy, which is in Hebrew Na'ar, crying? Why the word Na'ar, usually taken to be a young lad, applied to Moshe, who is an infant? How does this crying, its nature, quality, resonance, have anything to do with Pharaoh's daughter's certainty that this is a Hebrew child? That is a question that we have to answer. The word Na'ar is always used as a what? As a lad. That means someone who is from the around 8 years old to 13 years. That is a lad. Moshe was just an infant. So, but the Torah used the word Na'ar. Numerous suggestions have been advanced to answer this question. why the use of the word Na'ar? One rabbinic response is that Moshe was acting all beyond his age or his years, more a young lad than an infant. For he was restraining his tears, refusing to cry, when the angel Gabriel descended from heaven and struck him so that he would weep, to invoke the compassion of Pharaoh's daughter so that he can be saved. I mean, that is the rabbinic understanding of, that is, a kind of a midrash, okay? It's not literally that is what will happen, but we can understand that they are trying to understand what is going on here. What is the Torah using the word Na'ar, right? Instead of using the word infant, they are using the word that means a more older person. Because they are trying to say that Moshe at the age of 3 months, was acting more like a child of 13 years, not a boy or an infant of 3 months. Of 3 months. It's very, very strange. Another explanation of Na'ar is that although a child, Moshe cried with the call of Na'ar, the voice of a young man. There was something unnatural, override, different about the cry that came from Moshe's basket, and it was clear he was an extraordinary child. My father, I'm talking about my father of a blessed memory, explained that it was Moshe that was crying, but the Holy One, blessed be He, magnified his voice in the ears of Pharaoh's daughter to that of a lad. That is his own explanation. When I asked him, what is different between this? My father was explaining unto me. He said, right, that it was Moshe that was crying, because we have different kinds of explanation concerning this particular word, Na'ar. There are some explanation that say that it was Aaron that was crying. And then because Aaron loved his brother, when he saw that that the daughter of Pharaoh was taking him away, then he was crying. And they thought, but this is not the child, because Aaron is far more older than Moshe. But my own dad told me that actually it was Moshe that was crying, not Aaron, because Aaron wasn't there. According to what the Torah said it was Miriam that was there, not Aaron, right? But my father said it was Moshe that was crying. But the Holy One, blessed be He, magnified that voice to the voice of a lad in the ears of Pharaoh's daughter. When Moshe cried, Pharaoh's daughter was hearing the voice of a man. And we need to understand why this. Because as the princess is coming to take shower, all the banks of the Nile, right, will be clear, because this is the princess coming, right? And there is no any other person that can be there. Only the princess and her entourage. But now I'm hearing the voice of a man. Who is that? Who is this man that is at the side of the river? Are they coming to spy at me? Are they coming to come and look at my nakedness? Who is this man? Then that bring up the kind of an interest to search to see where that voice is coming from. And behold and lo, they find the basket. And finding the basket, they look. Oh, this is a child. How come a child having the voice of a man? It's very strange. And when they open the child, behold, it's an Hebrew child. How did they know? Because Moshe was circumcised. Look, oh yeah, this is a Hebrew child. This is not this is not an Egyptian. This is the one of them, and the Torah said that the woman took pity on him. Lastly, there is an explanation that turns upon the curious fact that the Torah speaks of Pharaoh's daughter seeing, never hearing Moshe. That is because we are told Moshe did not cry aloud, his cry was silent. It was Atsu mi ma'ameke halev, which means stopped up in the depth of his heart. and all the sadness and terror he felt was reflecting on his face. This kind of face, the eloquency of its agony, the refusal to cry aloud, is uniquely that of the Hebrew people. And so it was clear that Moshe was an Hebrew child. That is told to the daughter of Pharaoh. Looking at the face of this young boy, an infant, baby, not a boy, a baby. Looking at what is going on. The understanding is that all the pain that is going to come, all the suffering, and also the happiness that was stored up in the mind of Moshe, in his soul, deep down, buried down in his soul, that Moshe was able to express those things on his face. And the daughter of Pharaoh understood this, that this actually is not an Egyptian, but a Hebrew child. All of this interpretation of Moshe's cry, all the struggle with its significance are vital. For Moshe's cry is not the simple cry of a child. It is a paradigm. It stands for all the manner of tears and mourning, grief, and also happiness, tears of joy that is to come. Other than crying, but not in the conventional sense, like the call of Na'ar, a young lad coming from a mere baby. Some can cry only in a strange voice, perhaps not with tears, but in charity, in poetry, with act of compassion. Perhaps they cry only in songs, in psalms, in sermons, and in prayers. There are those who cry as silence. There are those of us that are atsumi ma'amake halev, which means some of those of us that stop up in the depth of our heart, of our cries. Instead of us crying physically, instead of us crying that what we see, this cry is right deep in our heart, deep in our soul. They cannot be heard, although they can be seen in a glance, a gesture with a vague sense that somewhere inside is weeping, somewhere deep down in your heart, in your soul, is weeping. Neither the blow of an angel nor the compassion of another human being will bring the tears to the surface, for they lie deep within. The seemingly natural cry of a child is frightened with its significance for us and for our understanding of Moshe. The Torah begins the chronicle of Moshe with a cry, because it is the pivot of his character. Anyone who aspires to greatness, to goodness, must have a cry at the center of their soul. The word, said the novelist Horace Walpole, he said, it is a comedy to those who think and a tragedy to those who fear. The Hebrew people, my people, have always felt and have always known that in the midst of the goodness of this world is great tragedy. That is the message of the poignant and rushing legend that a giant vase stood in the heavens, into which flows all the tears of all the generation of the Israelites, of all the generation of my people, and until that seemingly bottomless vat is filled, we will not be redeemed. That is what a Midrash said. He said that in the heaven is a big pot, a big vat, right? And into it flows the entire cry, entire water that comes out from the eyes of my people. And this pot is so vast and bottomless, but until that vase or that bucket is full, we as an Israelite will not be redeemed. Perhaps the deepest cry comes from a particular kinds of Jews, a cry that we, in our incomparable savage century, known all too well, for Pharaoh's decree was to kill all the sons of Israel, as we Israelites have noted throughout the ages. It was the first attempted genocide of my people. What we can now appreciate is that if this was the first attempt to destroy Israel, then when we listen to the cry of Moshe, we are hearing the cry of the first survivor. Moshe was the first one to grow up with the guilt and the pain of inexplicable having lived when so many of his contemporary must have died. It explains so much about Moshe Rabbeinu, his sense of personal unworthiness of God's mission, his uncheckable insistence upon carrying out that mission once it has been chosen, his refusal to abandon his own people, to avenge, even if it is the vengeance of the Lord. For at Moshe's call, beyond even his indestructible sense of self as a prophet of God, is an unexpected softness, the knowledge from the youth that the world can be unrelentingly quarrel, and that those who make their way through it intact with whatever pain or difficulty owe a perpetual debt to those who do not make it, those who are no longer here, those who are no longer with us. Jeremiah Hanavi, Jeremiah the prophet, knows that pain very well. He said, "Oh, that my head were watered and my eyes a fount of tears. Then will I weep day and night for the slain of my poor people." Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 23. Moshe in the Torah does not weep all day and night. He gives his solitary symbolic cry, and that cry is, "Behold, look, see a child crying." It knows its significance, understand its centrality, and let us learn from its weeping. Years later, when Moshe walked out of the palace and saw the burden of his people, he understood the importance of the cry he had given as a child. It was for all who were gone, for all those who live now, and behold, for the oppression, for the suffering, and for the hope of redemption ahead. Moshe's cry was a cry of both a survivor and a contemporary. He cries for those whose lives were cut short, and for those whose lives but were empty, ignoble, and sad. The philosopher Satayana taught, "The young man who will not cry is a savage, and the old man who cannot laugh is a fool." We are now a very old people, and we have not forgotten how to laugh. In this parasha, we are nonsense people, a people being born, the youngest of nations, and we are already learning how to cry. It is yet another lesson from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe, our teacher. And the Midrash contained the seed of this teaching. When it tells of Moshe's death, it said, after his death, the rabbis relate, not only did the children of Israel cry, but his disciple Joshua, unable to find his teacher and realizing that he was gone forever, began to cry. And then the heavens cried, and the earth cried. And finally, God took Moshe's souls away with the keys. And I repeat, you can have no freer person than one who engages in the study of the Torah. Avot 6:2. Libertines live for pleasure. Truly free people submit to a higher calling. The life that we live now, the people that we meet now, this 21st century, are those people that we call libertines. These are the people that talk about liberty, 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 freedom, 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 freedom. I am this, I am this, I am that. But all their life is all upon only for pleasure, nothing more. Only, how am I going to maintain my flesh? Don't get me wrong, please. And for those who are watching, I'm not saying to take care of your physical flesh is wrong. No. But what the Torah is saying is about the balance of the flesh and the soul, your spirit. You have to feed your flesh, of course, and you have to feed the soul. But we have some people who only depend 100% upon the flesh, starving the soul. And when the soul cannot survive, the flesh cannot survive. Remember that the flesh is from this planet and it's going to remain in this planet. It's going nowhere. But your soul is not from here. Your soul is created very special by the Holy One, blessed be He. The soul returns to its maker, who makes it, right? Or who designed it. And so what are you going to tell him when the time comes? A truly free people, a truly free person is a man, is a woman, is a people, is a person that submits himself to the higher calling. You tend to deny yourself things of the flesh and increase your spirit, increase the knowledge, the power, the strength of your soul. Parashah Shemot names Hineh Na'ar bokeh, and behold, a boy crying. Shabbat Shalom.